Hello everyone! Like my new headgear, it actually has to do with today's episode on beef pho, or Vietnamese noodle soup. I used to eat pho about 3 times a week in high school. I really miss Chinatown. But now that I live in Stockholm, when I want my pho, I want it fast. I usually don't have time to simmer a pot of broth all day long, nor do I have the energy to go all the way to that one place that makes a decent bowl. So I've come up with a solution and have dubbed it Faux Pho. You get it? Actually, I'm pretty proud of this recipe. For our broth, of course, we're going to need our beef consommé or beef stock, about 4 slices of yellow onion, 2 sticks of cinnamon, about a tablespoon of allspice or kryddpeppar, and a good chunk of ginger. We're also going to use some beef. I have ribeye or entrecote because I love it, but you can also use sirloin or lövbiff. And last but not least are rice noodles. I have the flat Vietnamese rice noodles here, but vermicelli could work too. And for our toppings, bean sprouts and coriander are usually mandatory for me. But I also love a little spring onion, some sliced chili, and some sweet Thai basil. A good thing with the sweet basil is that you can use the stalks in the soup. Now I'd like to talk about something important. When making pho, you need to use either beef stock or beef consommé. You can't use beef broth. So I guess I have to explain to you why not, right? Beef broth, beef stock, and consommé are very similar, but not exactly the same. So this is how I keep track. Broth is a liquid of meat or vegetables that are cooked in water, often seasoned. You can call this bouillon as well. You know those little cubes? That's just a dehydrated version of broth. Now, if you take it one step further, you'll get beef stock. Beef stock is concentrating on the flavor of the meat and usually involves boiling down the bones. So you don't have a lot of seasoning, and it's usually used as an ingredient in food. Now, if you want to take that one step further and get fancy, you can make a beef consommé, which is basically beef stock that has been clarified. It has really condensed beef flavor, and that's what we really want for our pho. Before you start cooking, place your steak in the freezer. That'll give it half an hour or more to get a little solid. This will make it easier to slice thinly later. This is also a good time to start soaking your rice noodles if you need to. Just read the package and see what it says. For our pho, we want some really deep beef flavor, so beef stock or preferably a consommé. And we're going to season it ourselves. So that's why it's not a good idea to use beef broth. This is really simple. All you need to do is add in your beef consommé or beef stock, your yellow onions, your cinnamon, the allspice, and your ginger. I'm also throwing in the stems from the basil. This will give it a slight anise flavor without using actual star of anise, which might be a little too strong for this quick soup. Let that simmer down for about half an hour. If it's hard to find a good beef consommé, Campbell's actually has a condensed version too. The soup has been cooking for about half an hour. Depending on whether or not you use consommé or beef stock, you might want to taste it for salt. But other than that, all you need to do is drain out the solids. Go ahead and let that simmer while you work on your rice noodles. Start with a pot of boiling water. So my rice noodles have been soaking for about 30 minutes in cold water, so I'm just going to drain them out and then throw them into the boiling water. There they're going to boil for around 5 minutes, and then I'm going to strain them again and cool them down with cold water. This process might be different depending on what kind of noodles you bought, so read the package. Don't worry about the rice noodles sticking together. They're not starchy like spaghetti. The cold water helps them to stop cooking. Don't worry if they're a little undercooked. They'll cook further in the soup. Now's the time to grab your steak out of the freezer. It should be semi-frozen, just firm enough to slice nice and thin. So since we sliced our steak nice and thin, it'll cook easily and right through in the soup. Now is the time to get your bowls ready. So fill the bowls up with noodles less than halfway so they have room to grow. Now all you have to do is take your slices of beef and line them right on top of your noodles. You want to get one thin layer so that the broth can touch every bit of this meat. When you're ready to eat, grab your boiling soup off of the stove and simply pour it over your noodles and your beef. Give it a moment and you'll see the beef will cook through. Now all you have to do is throw on your garnish and you're ready to eat. Now for the toppings. You could just as easily serve all of this on the side, but we're gonna sprinkle some on top because it looks nice. So take some bean sprouts and sprinkle those on top. Next, I'm gonna go for some coriander. You can use a little or a lot. The spring onion. You might want to serve your chilies on the side, but I like putting them on top because it gives some nice color. Beef pho is one of the most comforting foods, let alone soups, that I know of. If you feel a cold coming on, have a bowl of this and you'll be all right. Visit Americulinariska.com for more tips and recipes. Don't forget to subscribe.